She always believed she was meant for something more than an ordinary job. Her name was Amina, a woman with eyes full of restless dreams and a heart that never settled for routine. She grew up in a modest neighborhood where most people were satisfied with small lives, where success meant a stable job and a monthly paycheck. But Amina, even as a teenager, would whisper to herself, "I will build something of my own. I will not just survive, I will create." After finishing her studies in business, she stepped into the world with burning determination. She didn't want to wait years climbing ladders in someone else's company. She wanted her own ladder, her own building, her own name on the door. So, at the age of 25, she opened a small boutique, a clothing business she had been planning for years. She borrowed some money, saved every coin she had, and rented a tiny shop in the busy part of the city. At first, it felt magical. The smell of new fabrics, the glow of the lights she had carefully chosen for her store, the sound of customers walking in and asking prices was a dream turning into reality. She decorated the shop herself, arranged the clothes with care, and even painted the signboard with her own hands. She told herself, "This is the beginning of my empire." But dreams often look different in reality. The first month passed, then the second, and soon the third. Customers came, but not as many as she had hoped. The competition was fierce. There were bigger stores, more experienced sellers, and brands that already had loyal buyers. Amina worked day and night, smiling at every person who entered, offering discounts, even delivering clothes herself when people asked. Yet the money she was earning was far less than the money she was spending. The stress grew heavier each day. Rent was due, suppliers demanded payment, and her savings dried up faster than she could refill them. At night, she would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she had made a terrible mistake. But every morning, she would force herself out of bed, put on her best smile, and tell herself, "One more day. Just give it one more day." 6 months later, the dream collapsed. She couldn't keep up with the bills. The shop rent increased, sales were down, and she had borrowed from family and friends who now wanted their money back. One evening, with trembling hands, she locked the door of her boutique for the last time. The signboard she had painted herself looked like a cruel reminder of failure. Amina felt broken. She had poured her soul into the business, and still, it wasn't enough. People around her whispered, some with pity, some with mockery. She thought she was smarter than everyone else, they said. Now look at her. Back to zero. Even her relatives suggested she should stop chasing dreams and find a regular job. Business is not for everyone, they told her. At least with a job, you'll have security. But Amina's spirit was not so easily destroyed. For weeks she cried in silence, questioned herself, doubted everything she once believed. Yet, deep inside, a quiet voice whispered, "Failure is not the end. T is a lesson." She didn't want to listen at first. She was too tired, too ashamed. But slowly, as the days turned into weeks, she realized something powerful. She hadn't failed because she wasn't capable. She had failed because she wasn't prepared. She had entered the battlefield with passion, but without strategy. She had thought hard work alone was enough, but business demanded more than sweat. It demanded knowledge, patience, and resilience. So Amina decided she wouldn't give up. Not yet. She took a job not because she wanted to give up on her dreams, but because she needed stability for the moment. She started working at a small company that dealt with fabrics and retail, the very industry she wanted to master. This time, instead of rushing into another business, she became a student again. She watched how the company managed its suppliers, how they attracted customers, how they balanced costs. She asked questions, read books on business, attended workshops, and even took online courses late at night. It wasn't easy. Her pride sometimes screamed, "You are supposed to be the owner, not the employee." But she swallowed that pride. She told herself, "This is training. This is my preparation for something greater." Every day, she carried a small notebook, writing down observations, mistakes she had made before, and ideas for the future. And slowly, a new vision began to form in her mind. Not a boutique this time. Something bigger, smarter, and more aligned with the market's needs. She realized that fashion was not just about selling clothes. It was about creating an experience, understanding trends, and connecting with people on a deeper level. By the time 2 years had passed, Amina was no longer the same woman who had closed her shop in tears. She was sharper, wiser, and tougher. She had saved money again, but more importantly, she had saved knowledge, ideas, and strategies. She was ready to build again, this time stronger. Amina's second chance did not begin with excitement or blind hope this time. It began with quiet determination, almost like a soldier sharpening her sword before stepping back into battle. She had saved enough money to start something small again. But instead of rushing into opening another boutique, she carefully designed her plan. She knew exactly what went wrong before, and she promised herself she would not repeat those mistakes. She began with research. She walked through busy markets, talked to shopkeepers, and even interviewed customers. She asked them simple questions. What do you look for when buying clothes? What frustrates you in stores? Why do you choose one shop over another? The answers surprised her. Many people complained about poor quality, about prices that didn't match the product, about sellers who didn't care about customers once the sale was done. Amina wrote everything down. She realized something powerful. People don't just buy products, they buy trust. They buy the feeling of being valued. They buy the experience. And that was where she would stand out. This time, instead of opening a traditional boutique, she decided to start online first. It was cheaper, it reached more people, and it allowed her to build step by step without drowning in expenses. She created a simple online store with the help of a friend, took photographs of her clothes with care, and wrote honest descriptions. She didn't exaggerate, she didn't lie. She focused on building a reputation where every customer felt respected. The first few weeks were slow. Orders came in trickles, sometimes none at all. But Amina didn't panic. She had learned patience. She knew building trust was like planting seeds. You water them daily, even when you can't yet see the growth. She knew building trust was like planting seeds. You water them daily, even when you can't yet see the growth. She followed up with every customer, asked for feedback, and even replaced items for free when someone complained. Slowly, word spread. People began telling their friends, "There's this new online store. Her quality is good." And she actually listens to customers. Within 6 months, Amina was handling more orders than she could manage alone. She hired 2 helpers, young women who were looking for opportunities just as she once had. She trained them not only in packaging and shipping, but also in her philosophy. Treat every customer like a guest in your home. But growth never comes without challenges. As her business expanded, larger competitors noticed her. They lowered their prices, trying to push her out of the market. Suppliers began charging her more, assuming she could now afford it. There were days she felt cornered, as if the universe was testing her again. One evening, after a particularly tough day where half of her stock arrived damaged, she sat on the floor, surrounded by boxes, tears threatening to spill. She whispered to herself, "Not again. I can't lose everything again." But then she remembered the first time she failed and the woman she had become since then. She took a deep breath and said out loud, "I am not the same Amina anymore. I don't break that easily." The next morning, instead of crying over the damaged stock, she contacted the supplier and negotiated a refund. She switched to a new supplier after doing proper research. She built backup plans so that no single failure could destroy her. Step by step, she turned obstacles into opportunities. And then came her breakthrough moment. A customer she had served months ago, impressed by her honesty and professionalism, recommended her store to a well-known influencer. That influencer mentioned Amina's business in a video, praising her quality and customer service. Overnight, Amina's sales exploded. Hundreds of new customers poured in, her online store buzzing with activity. But Amina didn't let the sudden success make her careless. She remembered the lessons of her past traffic growth could be dangerous without proper systems. So she invested in better software, hired more staff, and made sure the quality remained consistent. She worked harder than ever, sometimes late into the night, but this time she worked smart, too. Months turned into years, and what had started as a small online store grew into a recognized brand. She opened her first physical outlet again, but this time it wasn't a tiny boutique struggling to survive. It was a modern, well-planned store backed by loyal customers, online reach, and strong systems. The opening day was emotional. As she cut the ribbon, she remembered the night she had locked the doors of her first failed shop, feeling like the world had ended. Now she stood taller, stronger, with a team beside her and customers cheering her on. But perhaps the most beautiful part was not the success itself. It was the way Amina had changed. She no longer measured her worth only in profit and sales. She had learned to value resilience, knowledge, and the ability to rise again after falling. She became a mentor to young women who wanted to start businesses, sharing her failures openly so they would not feel alone in theirs. People admired her brand, but those who truly knew her admired her spirit even more. She had proven that failure was not the opposite of success, was a part of it.